We're going to be doing a multi-part series at the Northeastern Vermont Regional Hospital from May 10 through 17. We'd like to tell you a little bit about ourselves.
I was born in the flatlands of Michigan, where I studied art and theology. I have a master's in pastoral ministry. Currently, I'm serving as a chaplain at Andrews University.
By training, I am a Michigan licensed teacher, and I also have a degree in English with an emphasis in writing. After teaching for about 12 years, we decided to start a family, and so I now stay at home with our 2 young daughters, and I do some freelance writing on the side, as well as I'm actually working on a memoir right now.
Our series is entitled From Chaos to Completion, When Tragedy Challenges Our Faith. Emily, tell us a little bit about that story.
Absolutely. So about 2.5 years ago, when I was pregnant with our second child, I started having some really weird and then eventually concerning neurological symptoms. I started losing my hearing in my left ear, and then it progressed to tinnitus, and then dizziness and vertigo, imbalance, and eventually I even had some facial asymmetry on my left side. And being young and healthy, it was actually very challenging to try and sort out what was going on. My medical providers weren't really taking it seriously because my health history was very uncomplicated up until this point. But eventually, someone was able to listen to me, and an MRI was ordered of my brain. Now, unfortunately, that MRI did show a brain tumor in my skull base, and this was in January 2023, and things started to happen very rapidly after this point. In about 2 weeks, I was having a craniotomy. Now, mind you, I was pregnant. I was about 22 weeks along at the time. And so I had a craniotomy, and it was discovered at that time that the tumor was also malignant, which was a surprise. It had been assumed to be benign. And so after that point, I went through a series of radiation and then chemotherapy and stem cell transplant, really the whole experience that you would have with cancer. And at the same time, of course, we had delivered a baby girl, and this was a very challenging time as I spent a lot of time in the hospital away from our newborn and our toddler. So Jacob, what was it like for you watching this story unfold, happening to me, but you were also experiencing this with me? What was it like? How did you cope?
As sitting on the sidelines, I felt the pain, not in the same way, but I felt the pain, I felt the fear. I was so scared that I would shake in sorrow. And why? Well, part of it is because it was terrible. The other part was when I was 13, I felt a lot of similar emotions. I was in a big car accident with my mom. She was in a coma for about 6 months. I was knocked out for a week. I woke up seeing my mom lifeless, almost on the hospital bed, and I thought she was gone. She did recover, but she recovered with some really bad handicaps, almost a different personality, a different mom. And I grieved the loss of my mom at 13. All those emotions came flooding back when I found out my wife had a tumor, and then I found out that she had cancer. And then I'm thinking I have to raise maybe two children, 2 young girls alone, and the fear circuits go crazy. And it was really hard sitting on the sidelines. We're in Michigan. Why are we going to St. Johnsbury to tell our story?
St. Johnsbury is a really special place to us. My family moved to the community when I was about 16. My parents still live here. And we have friends here. We have connections in the community. We end up visiting usually about twice a year. And so that's actually what we were doing in December 2022 when my symptoms became an emergency.
Emily, what are we hoping to communicate through this series to those who are listening?
That's a really good question. I think that over the past 2.5 years, what we have experienced with the devastation and the survival, it's really common to the human experience. Trauma is trauma, and unfortunately, trauma plays a huge part in each of our life journeys, whether that trauma is relational or physical or spiritual or financial. And so I feel like our story is able to be grasped by many people who are listening. It goes way beyond cancer. But secondly, there's a bigger component because we really feel like we were sustained and held by a hope that was within us. We believe that God was present with us during this whole experience. We believe that God is with all of us collectively as we are in the mess of what it's like to be a human, as we're in the midst of our trials. And so we want to communicate some of that hope that we have experienced throughout our whole story.
So where will people be able to find us from May 10 through the 17th?
We are going to be meeting each evening in conference rooms 126 and 127 at NVRH from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Each evening, I'm going to be sharing a piece of our ongoing story.
And I'll be sharing some overarching themes about how God walks with us through pain and suffering and how we can find comfort through the Bible.
We really look forward to seeing you there.